Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is a 2017 movie directed by James Gunn starring Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Vin Diesel, Bradley Cooper, Michael Rooker, Karen Gillan, Tom Clementieff, and Kurt Russell. The movie takes place after the events of the first, as the Guardians encounter a man named Ego, who claims to be Peter Quill's father, with the story focused on exploring his lineage and how that affects his relationship with the team. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was one of my most anticipated movies of 2017. I absolutely adored the first, so I had extremely high hopes for this one, and I was kinda let down. Now, before any of y'all decimate me for saying I was let down by the film, hear me out. Let me explain. I was let down having seen it the first time, being very disappointed in the movie I saw, for reasons that I will explain in a moment. However, the movie was getting such positive reception at the time, and I was wondering if there was something I was missing. Having seen it again this past weekend with the things people said they liked in mind as I saw it, I could appreciate it a little more. But I still feel like this movie very much pales in comparison to its predecessor when looking at the whole picture. Firstly, let's look at the positives. This is an extremely fun adventure, showcasing why we love this team once again. The family dynamic between them that we saw from the first movie is still present here, and in some ways is deepened by the events of this movie. It's a joy to see such wonderful characters back in action. In some ways, these characters are fleshed out so much more. A lot more weight is given to them as the story is more focused on who they are and how they become the people that they are at the moment in time. So that's another positive to be had, which is great considering how easy it would have been for the movie to not have done that. What most people expect from a superhero movie is action first and foremost, and while there was a considerable amount of it in the movie, none of it overshadowed the development that the characters got. Ego is also a pretty good villain, I'd say. Wow, a good MCU villain? What a shocker. But yeah, in all seriousness, he's actually pretty good. His connection to Peter lends a lot to his character, which is why he's so interesting. And Kurt Russell does a great job portraying him. It's just great to have him play a role like this in this kind of movie. And without spoiling anything, I must say that the ending is easily one of the most emotional that I have ever seen in an MCU movie. I was actually surprised as to how hard the ending hit, and especially on the second viewing, that's something I really enjoyed seeing. I didn't expect to be feeling this way with and for this ragtag group of heroes, and I gotta admit that that is pretty good on the part of the writing. So now that the good is out of the way, let's talk about the bad. Why did I not like this movie so much? Well, first of all, there are quite a few storytelling issues with the film. Sometimes the tone just changes so rapidly from scene to scene. It was jarring, and this was the case for several reasons. For one, there were these gold people who were just pretty obviously unimportant, and whenever they appeared, it dragged the story to a halt. Seriously, those gold people just annoyed the hell out of me. It's like the movie couldn't go on without a bad set of villains. Yeah, they're antagonists to the Guardians, but it was just really annoying, especially now looking back on the role that they played whenever they would do anything in the story. It felt like a dumb, shoehorned in setup that was not fun to see. The second reason is due to the humor. While this is a funny movie, I felt that it tried way too hard to be one. Sure, it got a few chuckles out of me, but taking a look back at the sheer amount of jokes present in the movie, it would have been tragic had not one of them gotten a laugh out of me. There were so many instances in the movie where jokes were crammed into places where they weren't necessarily needed. It felt like each joke was getting shoved down my throat, and it got to a point where I started cringing. I had to just tell myself, no, I do not like this. It's kinda sad to be saying something like that, considering how well balanced the humor was in the first movie compared to this one. However, I'm just being honest with how I felt. It was what I was thinking when I watched it in cinemas for the first time, and it was what I recalled having seen it again. So, all in all, while I do find this movie disappointing, I don't hate it, and I can very much see why it has many fans. It does a good job of furthering the development of this team that we love seeing, and adds a considerable amount of weight to the characters, which is important leading up to an event as apocalyptic as that of Infinity War. And while I do feel that one too many jokes were crammed into the film, it was still fun to watch and it's still a good time along with a very very emotional ending. I give this movie a 7 out of 10. So yeah, I really do wish I enjoyed this movie a lot more. This is probably the movie that I wish I could have had my friends and many fans' perspectives on. I don't like disliking or being disappointed by movies after all. Oh well, I can't deny how I feel about it. Anyways, next week we take a look at the return of one of Marvel's most iconic superheroes. A homecoming, if you will.